Hey, this is Evan Marquez, dating coach for smart, strong, successful women and your personal trainer for love. Welcome back to the Love You podcast, where you can learn everything you need to know about dating, relationships, sex, men, marriage, if you're still into that. I am joined today by my friend Carol Allen, the extraordinary, the lovely. We, I have to share a story with you. I was holding this back. This is an episode that's going to be airing around Christmas, so hopefully we'll get a chance to
Aw.
what we're doing for Christmas and for the holidays and what we're thankful for and the plans we have. But I'm really just glad to be here talking about a super interesting topic today. It's kind of the moment, and today's title is probably a little hyperbolic. Are dating relationships and marriage dying? This has been inspired by kind of a series of articles. If you are part of the literati and read the New York Times and Atlantic obsessively, there's been a lot of stuff written about this, and we're going to be talking about things that you might be feeling today and validating whether they're true or not. So, my friend Carol, how are you? And what's the latest in your world? What are you up to?
I'm good. With a name like Carol, I love this time of year. And you and I live in Los Angeles, which is so beautiful at this time of year. I mean, it's beautiful all the time. But
It's
what
normally 75 degrees. This week it's 70 degrees.
so I have to wear a scarf because I'm freezing. Exactly. I am just grateful and trying to get ready for the season, and was just in Idaho and Washington visiting family. And sadly my uncle died, and
Sorry.
so I went to his burial and his funeral. And but it was so meaningful. It was so wonderful to be with cousins, and to see family that I haven't seen in forever. And it's just that reminder to like keep your people close and stay in touch and make the effort, because you might have, you know, a better time than you expect, and your people might be growing just like you are and might be more interesting than you think. And yeah, so that was really great. How about you?
Well, this Christmas we're taking it down a notch. We usually do something
Mhm.
super big and go on a vacation and get 20 gifts for every single person under the tree. And so we're going a little bit more low key this year,
Uh,
and it feels like a necessary reprieve because our kids aren't little, right? Like we love the idea of getting 20 things. And I go out and I
uh,
go to like shopping lists and I find cool things online. And 50% of the time they kind of shrug. They don't really need stuff.
uh,
All they want is experiences. The problem is an
oh,
experience.
that's great.
You'd think it's great, but an experience is going to a Laker game, which is $350 a ticket.
It is.
Yeah, it's like you
Oh,
can't just do it, or going to see I don't know, Roadshow of Wicked at the Pantages.
oh,
Same kind of thing. It's just
yeah.
you can't just do, hey, gotcha a basketball, gotcha a $50 sweatshirt.
Uh,
Like it's if you want to do something, it's just huge. At least here in LA, but I'm assuming
uh-huh.
it's that way in lots of places. So we're
Huh.
kind of doing the small version of Christmas this year, which will probably involve a lot of board games and movies, which makes it kind of just like the pandemic around here.
Oh, you know what I love doing is those light show things like at the LA Zoo. They have,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, they're amazing and they're not very expensive, like at all. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
actually what we're going to do in Phoenix. I'm going to visit my sister. My husband and I are going to go see my sister and my nephew and my sister's husband. And I got everybody tickets to go to the Botanical Garden Christmas light thing that's at night. And that's everybody's Christmas present. So
Amazing.
yeah, and they were like 40 bucks a ticket. So
Yeah.
woohoo.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm not going to be able to see you for our homie hookup.
Yeah.
For regular listeners, I got my Spotify numbers back. This podcast is in the top five podcasts for like 2,300 people across America. This is one of their top five podcasts. So
Aw, that's
those
fantastic.
listeners, I want to thank you. And
That's
again,
amazing.
that's just Spotify. That doesn't say anything about Apple. So it's just been very, very gratifying. We did the thing I was going to joke about. I did want to point out that we got a review, and the review commented on your laugh.
Oh no. That thing your wife found me at Disneyland with, that she didn't even know I was there, and that someone else we know found me at LAX that didn't know I was there. Oh no, did they say muzzle that crazy woman?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
I thought it was funny. Listen, you had people, you're What Men Want program people said that. So,
Yeah, people were like, you're a little too giddy around men. And I was like, yeah, and guess what? Bitches, they like it.
it happens to be a very effective technique if you make people think you like them. So that should bring us
Oh
to
no.
that should bring us to today's subject.
I'm sorry to get you bad reviews.
No, it's not. It was fine. I could survive 4 stars. It's the 1 star ones that really crush you. But yeah, we have over 500 reviews, and the word is spreading. And so thank you for being a part of this, my friend.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, you kidding? I'll hitch my horses to your wagon any day, my wagon to your horses, whatever it is. I'm grateful to be here.
So today's topic are dating, relationships, and marriage dying. I'm referencing an article. I'll put it in the show notes. It's stuff we've talked about here before. People speaking specifically about quitting online dating, but this has gone beyond that, right? People delete their apps when it gets a little too much, but
Yeah.
now people are making a sort of half-hearted, forced choice to say, you know what? I don't know if I even want it that bad. Like, I really do want it, but
Mm,
the effort it takes to get it is draining me to the point that I'm just going to put on my blinders and live my best single life and
yeah.
opt out. And if it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But the pain of searching these days is too great. Thoughts?
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, you and I haven't been single since, God was a boy. So
Yeah,
it's
but we still
hard.
work with people.
I know, I know, I know. And we still experience rejection in other ways. And it sucks, right? It's painful to make an effort at anything and have it not go well. It is very hard to constantly like put your inner organs out on the table and have somebody take a machete to them. It's horrible. So, my thought, and this is going to be different than yours, of course, is as an astrologer, I'm always thinking astrologically, because I'm a coach and an astrologer. And
Yeah.
I turn people away when they want to work with me if they're not in a love season, if they're not in a cycle that's going to bring love. I say, listen, doesn't matter how many of me you hire and how many matchmakers you go to and how much weight you lose and how many photographers you hire, it's not your time and it's not going to be fun. Because when it's not your time, it's a lot of like Mr. Wrong, Miss Wrong. And it's a lot of rejection or disappointment or too much effort for the results. So that's kind of where I go. And you know what's so wild, Evan, about this time in the culture? And again, I know this isn't your thing, but the United States astrologically is in a totally blocked time for love. And it started right before the pandemic started. And that's, of course, when we saw a giant drop in weddings and a giant drop in people being able to get together at all. And it's a long cycle. And it's also like part of why the public is so divided in so many other ways. It's just a hard personal time for the
I
public,
think,
and it's not
yeah.
over for 3 more years. So
I mean, listen, or 4 more years as it might be.
yeah. Oh,
I,
oops.
I,
Yeah.
Listen, I think we're all feeling some sort of, ambient anxiety or strain. Uh, and I certainly can't speak to astrological claims about this time
Right.
in world history or the United States birth date and how it correlates with the. So, given that, right,
With the
right. So,
stellar.
like,
Yeah.
given that, for the sake of this podcast, we'll put it aside. What are people to do? I'm a 37-year-old woman and I want to start a family. I'm not sitting around for 3 years waiting for a better time in world history.
Right.
So whether those people, and to me, like that's the important question is even if everything you're saying is 100% correct,
Right.
people are still left with, I'm lonely, I'm
Yeah.
sad, I'm doing my best to put on a brave face and fill up my life with things that I love. And I can. Most of the women I work with have, what I call rich, full single lives filled with friends and hobbies and travel. But
Yeah,
it's not the life that they really, really want. They want the partnered life.
right. Well, the thing that I always am encouraged by is people are going to always fall in love, right? And we might have an idea, oh, I have to be with a taller, richer, smarter guy. And men might think, oh, I have to be with a younger, more beautiful, blah, blah, blah woman. But then guess what happens is people fall in love with people that don't match any of that. And this, of course, is your core teaching that you've talked about for forever and that you're a great example of, and I'm a great example of. And so, the thing we have to keep doing is keeping our heart open and showing up for life. And what I don't like is when people decide how it's going to go out of self-protection, out
Mm.
of, staying safe. And those walls that we put up where we like make some declarative, like, that's it, I'm done. Maybe you need a break, but don't decide how the rest of your life is going to go
I think
with
that's
anything.
that's an excellent point. Well, there's two things, right? Like there's always this moment will pass, this time, this feeling, right? And that's just good, sort of self-help to recognize this moment will pass. I think the thing is, as you said, you've got people, and we can name the ages, late 30s want to have kids, um, 40s, 50s, kids are first out of the house, 60s, second divorce, um, widowed. And because they're not meeting people organically, and because online dating has gotten worse, right?
Yeah.
They've drawn the conclusion, they've made a conclusion that's going to last for the rest of their lives, and they're not really calculating the cost of the conclusion. Okay, my first marriage was a shit show. It took me 10 years to get out. Now I'm 51. You had 35 years ahead of you. That's a long time to
Yeah.
to do anything, to do a job, to live in a house, right? So we make these really, really emotional decisions, but then we reach a place that I call safe solitude, right? It's the
Nice.
easiest thing to do is to be alone. No one
Yeah.
can hurt me. No one, like I can't get my heart broken. I can't get invested in anybody. So I will never get hurt, will also never be loved. And that is a calculation. I think it feels like a good short-term calculation when people are feeling fragile. It
Yeah.
doesn't seem to be a good long-term calculation.
Yeah. I call it deciding how the movie's going to go without buying the ticket, and yeah, it can be a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think it's a shame. And to your point that you have so much life ahead of you, one of my favorite stories is a client of mine had one of those like Dr. Jekyll husbands. He was like
Yeah.
the best of the best and the worst of the worst. And one day his worst became untenable and he went screaming off into the sunset. And she was totally devastated
Yeah,
after like 20 years. And
sure.
she was crying in a bathroom at a restaurant. And she came out of her stall and there was an older woman there. And the woman said, "Honey, what's the matter?" And my client told her what had happened. And she said the greatest thing. She said, "Oh, I had one of those. And I've been happily married for 40 years to a much better man." And that client has now been happily married to a much better man for over a decade. So, these things, even if they're long, they really are just a chapter of our lives. They're not forever.
Yeah, no, it's not at all surprising. Um, and yet the story itself, which is lovely and validating, also relies on a little serendipity and Hollywood magic, which is not to say that it's not true that it didn't happen. It obviously did, and it obviously does. I think people are trying to figure out where can I take control over my own destiny,
Yeah.
and are these feelings? I think you probably get this too. Similar jobs. People want to know if they're normal, right? Like, is this thing that I'm feeling normal? All my clients feel like there's something uniquely wrong with them. They're stuck in their
Right.
heads. They're battling this, they're battling aging parents. They're battling, teenagers who are pushing them away. They're battling inflation. They're battling all these things. And then there's this one thing that seems to be the most mystifying thing of all. And they want to know how much control over their own destiny they have. And the reason I'm doing this is that, in our show notes, we're citing this book called Datanomics. I read Datanomics when it came out. It's by John Berger, Birger. When it came out, I even wrote a review of it on my website.
Great.
And it was it had a little bit too much of an angle, in that it was like, well, here's the deal, ladies. You're more, we should get rid of gender roles because things are completely different right now. So women should be asking out men. And if you want to meet a man, go to a city where there's more men. I did the research, and the Bay Area has more men because they have more engineers. And cities like, New York and DC are out. Maybe DC had more men, but like it was this very data-driven thing. Go where the men are, shed the roles entirely. And I think it was supposed to be a prescriptive pep talk that actually maybe made people feel worse.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anybody wants to have to move to San Francisco or Wyoming, where there's more, right? Like there's more ranchers there. Like you don't want to have to move and then have to be in your masculine to get a guy. And that's sort of what I remember being in that book. And that book was cited in the Atlanta article that we're talking about.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, good for you for making a counter point of view. A lot of women don't want to be with engineers either, So
it's funny. I did not funny, haha. I had a conversation with a client of mine who's, I think I'm going to talk about her in a future episode because the conversation is really raw, but she's spent most of her adult life in relationships with a certain kind of guy who happens to be an engineer. And they're all brilliant, right? Like her father was, right? She overvalues brilliance and she sort of undervalues kindness, quality time. So these
emotional
are
availability.
these very, I don't know if it's left or right brain, but the guys who are just focused on them, their task, their goal, and she's sort of a satellite hoping to get some attention from them.
Yeah.
And the problem is when people latch on to these guys and think this is the best they can do. And when you have a sample size that's small, if you stay in a relationship like that for a long period of time, your version of this is how men are. No, it's just the 3 men you've chosen.
It's your little petri dish of men. Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's another hard part with this belief is people have their patterns and they go back to their patterns. So if you date online a certain way, market yourself a certain way, flirt in a certain way, handle sex in a certain way, right? Some form of the definition of insanity, and people are too close to it to figure out even how to change their patterns.
Right. Or to even recognize that it even is a pattern. To them, it's just life,
Well, it's the limiting belief. Men in my city, men my age, right? All the guys on this dating site. So most people come back to, well, where are the good guys? Right. So how do you answer that question, Carol? Where are the good guys? Why should people have hope?
Well, I think people should have hope because humans are wired to pair bond. We just are. We're wired to mate. We're built for it. And every culture we've ever studied, every civilization we've ever studied has had some version of marriage, every single one. So it's universal, it's timeless, it's who we are. Now, what we're seeing is that the more easily we can all get sex and resources without mating, the less urgency there is to mate, and the more societal acceptance there is of all choices, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
Again, the less urgency there is to mate. So this is part of why we're seeing a drop. But I think the answer always is and it's tricky because at the same time we have to be intentional if we want to mate. We have to we have to show up for it. We have to be strategic. We have to have like action around it. And the more you create a life you love, doing the things you love, the more you're going to be around the kind of people that are your people, right? That are going to feed your spirit. That are going to get you and that are going to be energetically, your kind of people. And so you'll either meet your people there or your person there, or you'll make incredible friends who will lead you to your person. So that's always my suggestion is like, what do you love? Where can you go? And how can you extend yourself? And when we're doing what we love, we're more magnetic, we're more attractive, people are more drawn to us. So yeah.
I agree. I think it's a comprehensive thing. I think it's a both and. No one in the world could argue with your advice. Maybe someone would try. I would never try to argue with that advice. But if you're a 55-year-old woman and you work remotely and the people who work with you is a group of 5 other women and you live in the suburbs and your kids are grown, might be more challenging. There's a reason that if you see that,
Sure.
the charts or the memes and things that are going around, what close to 50% of people are meeting people online now, right? The numbers have completely shifted
Right.
because the society has shifted.
Yeah.
So online becomes to me, however flawed it is, it is horribly flawed. It
Yeah.
becomes sort of a necessary tool
Oh,
in
it's still my
addition to
favorite.
living
Totally.
that rich life and surrounding yourself by people that you
Yes.
love, doing fun, exciting things, and people you vibe with. I think a lot of women choose. I think it's almost the point of today's conversation is people are choosing to do what you're doing. I'm just going to go live my life,
Right.
and then they wake up one day and they're like, I haven't gone on a date in 4 years.
Right. No, and I said be intentional about it. Like go to things specifically to meet men, right? And to flirt and put yourself. And I mean, online dating is the number one way I work with people and my
Yeah,
clients meet their guy. And I still totally believe in it. And so I just want to encourage everybody, don't be freaked out by these trends in the culture because you're not like a trend. You're an individual, you're a person, and there are
that's a
still
great point.
other people looking for love, wanting to find you. I mean, you and I know men, we know plenty of men that are like, I am dying to get off these apps. I am dying to find my person. I don't want to sleep around. I want a
That's
relationship.
literally what the article says is
Yeah.
the vast majority of people still want to find relationships. They're just
Yeah.
finding it harder to do for all
Yes.
the aforementioned reasons.
Yeah.
But as I tell my clients, how many guys do you need to be happy for the rest of your life? You need one. So it
Right.
doesn't matter societally. People think of this as a game of musical chairs. There's so few men left, and they're being taken by younger, thinner women or something like that. There's that scarcity mentality where it's there's enough guys in the world that you could there's for anyone listening to this podcast, there is absolutely a guy for you. The problem is you're not getting many reps in meeting him because you're spending the majority of your time, understandably, on other things. So just reallocating
Right.
time. If you spend 50 hours a week working and 5 hours a week in yoga and ballroom dance and 10 hours a week on Netflix, and not telling you to quit your hobbies, but if you could carve out 5 hours a week to talk to guys online and meet one a week for dinner, you're going to have a completely different experience because you'll go on 50 dates in a year instead of
Yeah.
3 dates a year. So I,
Amen.
I want to get back to the article because it was another thing that I wanted to bring up because I think it's an important observation and it's a trenchant one. Quote, uh, Marcia C. Inhorn, a Yale anthropologist, said that mainstream cultural tradition has encouraged women to engage in hypergamy, marrying up to a slightly older man, someone who's more career advanced, makes more money. Hypergamy, right? It's the tall, rich, smart, hot alpha male, and everybody's competing for to get that guy. And then men, she says, have tended towards hypogamy, marrying someone younger, less well off, less academically accomplished. The belief is that women's hard-earned achievements disadvantage them romantically is a dark irony. So
Mhm.
this is thrown in an article to the Atlantic, and
Those
I
are
think
great words, by the way. I've never heard of them in all
hypergamy is a
my
really,
years.
I never heard of hypergamy is often talked about in the
Okay.
manosphere of guys who feel like women are passing them up for, you know, the 5% of guys online who are broad-shouldered and square-jawed and right. Um, and I think
Symmetrical.
and so let's validate both things are real and both things are not 100% true. And the belief that they are is the problem. So while we can say there are indeed men who are threatened by smart, strong, successful women, true, you've gone out with them, I've met them. To me, they're not man enough for you if they're threatened by your intelligence, your success. So I don't
Mm.
worry about those guys. But that's sort of the story is
Uh,
men want to date, you know, they want to be the man, they want the damsel in distress, and it's fine if she's unemployed and it's fine, right? Like men want to date down. And this is belied by the statistics. You know who has the highest marriage rate? Women with PhDs and masters and bachelors and on down. The people who are least likely to get married are women who have high school educations.
yeah, our working class. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. So I
Yeah,
think we need to
blue
hold both
collar.
those things as true. There's the
Right,
perception a man can't handle me. Well,
right.
indeed, the best opportunity you have is with a man who is really your, certainly, if not your educational or income peer.
Uh-huh.
There are men who absolutely will appreciate having a woman like you. And that's my entire business model is I know everybody wants to date up. That is the nature
Yeah,
of hypergamy. But if you're in the 99th percentile of women, if you make 500 grand a year, it's hard to date up.
yeah. True. True. Well, and I have to say, like, of everyone I know, I mean, I had dinner last night with my 22-year-old godson and his 32-year-old girlfriend, who, like, all he does is date up, and my nephew dates up, and my other nephew dates up, and
But
my
then,
husband, my
but
husband
now let's
always
flip it
jokes
around.
that he married up, right? Like,
But now let's flip it around.
yeah,
The women want to date up too. That's the thing is,
right,
and we're saying down. I think that's
right,
I should probably do a whole podcast about that.
yeah,
Would any woman dare say to me that I married down?
yeah,
They would not. But if the roles were reversed,
uh-huh,
right? Because I married a woman who made 60 grand max, didn't go to
right.
a prestigious college, didn't have health insurance, was living in some old lady's guest house when I met her,
Oh,
right? So I can't imagine a woman telling me that I married down.
uh-huh,
But for a woman who chooses that, that's going to be the story is I
yeah,
married down. And so I want to kind of get away from this terminology. I think, and this is again, it may be challenging. You don't want a man that you have to support financially where he can't fend for himself,
right,
where you suddenly become
yeah,
resentful because you are not the wife, but you're also the mom.
right,
But if he can support himself, right? Any money he brings to the table is just added value. You're already making, unless you're planning on quitting your job to raise kids, in which case that's a different conversation. But for
yeah,
everybody else who's a career woman who's not planning on quitting their career, anything he brings to the table is additive. So if you make 300 grand a year and he makes 100, you just got a $100,000 raise. He's not draining you. And that's hard for people to take.
yeah. Yeah, I don't so much have that conversation with people. I mean, yeah, I mostly have women that are totally happy to do that. So you and I might work with a little different of an archetype or an avatar of a person. Um, they just, what they want is the man that's a man. They want a man that's like knows what he wants, is confident, is like not wishy-washy, is like making the plans, is suiting up and showing up, and is like adoring them. Like that's what they want. And that's what they're having a hard time finding. I mean, I think what we're also seeing in the culture is people are dating casually. There's a lack of wooing, there's a lot of hanging out, there's a lot of hooking up.
Right.
And
And people agree to those terms. That's the hard
right.
part.
Yeah.
Is we could say, how dare these men sleep with me without committing to me? But you're signing that contract. You're agreeing to situationships. It does not have to be that way. If
Right.
you agree that a guy could sleep with you and other women simultaneously,
Yeah.
right? You don't have much negotiating leverage when you want to rewrite that contract.
Well, I just did a bunch of research recently on what's going on with all that. And women are sleeping with men on the first date 30% of the time when they meet
Man,
online.
I was single at the
30%.
wrong time.
That's a
Shoot.
lot. That's a, yeah. We were single when it was kind of prudish, honestly. It was like, well, you're not my boyfriend yet, so we can't, like there was a lot of that. Um, but yeah, no, people are having sex right away, and apparently they're having unprotected sex right away. That's the other thing, the
That's
research I read.
another story for another day. But
Yes, that's
I think
another topic. Yeah.
I think that's kind of a European model is they put
Yes.
sex first,
Right.
less emphasis on marriage, more egalitarian, less sort of gender roles. Um, and again, I think we could have this conversation without even being judgmental about it. The way
Yeah.
you could tell anything is it working for you? How does it feel to you? Are like
Yeah.
it it is the dynamic that you've created working for you. And most people find themselves in relationship dynamics that aren't really working for them.
Yeah.
And they wonder, can I find that person? I think I have a note of hope in that the it's interesting. Spotify did that year-end Wrapped review that told me about the demographics of my listeners, and I was really shocked. Not shocked, maybe just mildly surprised to find out there's almost like an even distribution. Like it's like 15% under 25 and 15% 25 to 40. Like
Oh, interesting.
it's the 55 and older is growing, right?
Hmm.
That's the one that's grown the most in the past year, but there's largely an even distribution. So I can't presume I'm talking to a specific audience right now. But for people over the age of 40 to 45, um, who remember the world as it was before the digital age, before
Before these things.
yeah,
Yeah.
before the erasure of gender roles. Uh, I think there's even more hope. I don't want to make the younger generation feel hopeless, but I think there's more hope because there are more men who bought into that,
Hmm.
right? What would be considered masculine, and that's why I said I resented that the Datanomics book because it was basically saying, hey, women and men are equal. Ask out your guy, plan, pay. You could ask him to marry you. Like I don't see why we have to adhere to these things, and we don't have to adhere to them. I think the hard part is, and comes up later in the article, people still kind of like it.
Yeah, it doesn't work, honestly. Like, I'm all for women making the first move once just to show interest, just because a lot of guys are
Well,
like exhausted, tired, beaten
or
down by
the
the last.
insecure guy,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
insecure guy who doesn't
Totally.
have the confidence to know he won't get rejected.
Totally. So I'm all for women dropping that big fat hanky and being like, green light over here. But then you stop and you see if the guy is up to the job and if he's choosing you, right? Because if you can wear a guy down and you can get a guy to give in and relent, then you're with a guy that didn't really choose you. And I've
Right.
seen those marriages and they are not pretty, right? Like people are not happy that like got the guy that gave in. You want the guy that's psyched.
That's right. Right. That's why I double down on you're the CEO, he's the intern. He has to
Mhm.
really want the job. How do you know he wants the job? He comes in early, he stays late, he looks for extra credit, he doesn't get the job and then sort of mail it in.
He
And
sharpens the pencils.
right. But a lot of guys just like they get the job. I got the girl, I went through the courtship, and now I'm going to go back to being selfish. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's focus on my next accomplishment.
Yeah.
And uh, I don't want to lose sight of the original topic, which is what we're calling the death of dating relationships, romance. There's other reasons societally that things are fraying. It's a combination of men becoming more feminine, women becoming more masculine, blah, 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 blah. Online dating, going to dating apps, right? Like that's absolutely a factor. Going to dating apps has taken away longer profiles, taken away emails, shortened the courtship process to texting. Hey, you're cute. Let's hang out. Right.
Sup.
So,
Yeah.
right. Decoupling sex from commitment, all of these things. But there's a there's a thing that you and I have talked about that keeps resurfacing, which is the tyranny of small differences. Now, because so many people are at your fingertips, it's easy to dismiss anyone for any reason, anything in
Yeah.
their 3-line Hinge bio, right? Anything he says on the date
Or
that
any
makes you
shirt they're wearing or not wearing
right there, because
in their pictures.
there's no emotional investment because
Right.
he is a face on a website. Most people aren't even like talking before, right?
Yeah.
I encourage my clients to do FaceTime calls, but most people don't even do that. So you're texting, you go out with a stranger, he does one thing you don't like, and he's replaceable. And he is replaceable. There's an infinite number
Right.
of men online. So men dissect women, women dissect men, and we all wonder, why can't we make a human connection?
Yeah. Well, we're looking more for what's wrong than what's right because,
Mm.
we're trying to save time and not get hurt. And whenever women say to me, I just want to save time and I don't want to get hurt. I'm like, okay, right away you're going to fail. Like those are the two huge stumbling blocks because you've got to be willing to like put in some time and you've got to be willing to get hurt and hurt other people. It's
I
all part of
love,
it.
I want to applaud you. Like I always find your work validating. The work I understand, the part I don't understand
Yeah.
is fine. But but I mean, you said
Yeah.
something that touches me personally, like the energy that women usually have on a date, right? The guys are like either I want to get laid, eager, puppy, or the guy who is like, she's so smart, she's so hot, I don't want to screw this up, right? That's the
Yeah.
extreme. The women's energy is usually, I don't want to get hurt, I don't want to waste my time. Show me what you got.
Right.
Yeah, just you have about an
Are
hour, and
you my soulmate? Yeah.
I'm good for but I'm telling you, I'm not going to get hurt, and I'm not going to waste my time. And so it's the
Yeah.
exact verbiage that I use, and it's so validating that you use the exact same verbiage.
Well, it's what women have just said to me for decades. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that is not a winning strategy. You gotta like, I always say, do you want a safe life or do you want a great life? Because a
Mm.
great life is going to be messy and people are going to get hurt and it's going to be emotional, but it's going to be great. And you're going to leave everything on the field and you'll, win the pennant or whatever. I'm not a sports person.
That's a strange sports metaphor. That's baseball. Um,
I'm going to mix my metaphors. That's what I'm
I
going
do
to
that
do.
all the time.
Yes.
Question. Off the top of your head, none of this is scripted, clearly. Top of your head,
Uh,
think of other than us, 3 happy couples that you know, marriages that where you're like,
I
good
can think
marriage.
of 20. Yeah.
I'm just saying 3 because it makes it easier.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. What's the thing that each of them gave up, compromised on? Right. When we talk about the tyranny of small differences, I always tell the story.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't looking for a woman 3 years older when I wanted 2 kids. My wife wasn't looking for a Jewish atheist, and she went to 16 years of Catholic school. There's the things that there's the things that we thought we wanted, that we thought were important,
Yes.
not to actually be the deal breakers. That if you saw them on a site, you just pass them up. So I want
Right.
you to
Oh,
think of
totally.
your friends. Again, I don't have an answer to the question myself, but if you think of your
Yeah.
friends, could you tell me what's the thing that each of them might have given up that
Mm.
they wouldn't have met if they met online, for example?
Oh, interesting. Gosh, that's so interesting. What a good question. Um, well, I mean, I think, there's the stuff on paper and then there's the emotional stuff, right? Like I have friends where she wasn't looking for a guy who is a ranter raver, right? Like great guy, great dad, great job, on and on and on and on, walks the dog, right? But he also rants and raves, right? So, so
I don't know if that's making my case.
well, it's more of an emotional thing than an on paper thing.
Sure.
But I have friends when they got married, she had an amazing big career, blah blah blah. She had kids and discovered she didn't want her career anymore. She wanted to just be a mom.
Mhm.
He thought he was having like a co-earner,
Mhm.
and then they transitioned into that and it's worked out, but it wasn't what he thought he was getting, right? So, you know, I know a couple, they got married and she gained a lot of weight and she never, it never.
We're talking about two different
Oh, we're
things.
talking about two different things.
I'm not, you're giving me the negative version. I'm
Uh-huh.
trying to do the positive version.
Oh,
What's the thing that you thought mattered that proved not to matter? The thing that would have prevented you from meeting online because,
oh, I see. So sorry.
right, in our relationship,
Right,
right, you
right.
and me, it's our belief in the unknown.
Yeah,
You believe in everything. I don't believe in anything.
I'm a
But
metaphysical girl. Yeah, yeah,
right,
yeah.
but that doesn't prevent our friendship
Right.
and
Yeah.
our second marriage together from working out because
I thought you were marrying Kimmy Seltzer. I've got a bone to pick with you, mister. I thought you were marrying Lynn Rose. You have a list of us. You
I
ladies,
have
his
a
dance card is full, if anyone's wondering.
I have I we have a great group of people here.
Yes. Yes.
Is Kim in a relationship? I'm just
Yeah.
asking for a friend.
Yes.
She's still
Yes,
with
she
that
is.
same guy.
Yes, she is.
I'm happy for her.
I
I'm
don't know if
sorry.
that's public for public consumption, but yes, she is.
I'm sorry, and I'm not actually planning a backup plans for when my wife's heart explodes from chocolate and cheese.
Oh,
Just sort of hoping that doesn't happen anytime soon.
oh my gosh. Okay.
Um,
Alrighty then. I
no,
hope it never
but
happens.
I'll give you this because clearly I didn't tee up with the right
Well, I
prompt.
have another example that fits your profile.
Okay.
Uh, so someone in my family, staunch, bleeding heart liberal Democrat, like hippie chick, artist, met a guy online, corporate executive, Republican, golfer, and they fell madly in love and they have an amazing marriage and a great life together. And they both didn't expect that.
And
Yeah.
I, I think of friends of mine. I mean, my last name is Katz. I'm Jewish. I've got one cousin who he's raising his kids Catholic because his wife cared more than he did. Right? Like she's like,
Right.
I don't care too much about it. Sure, we'll have Catholic kids, no big deal.
Yeah.
Um, I got a couple friends who married, a couple of my guy friends married older women, which again was not, in the bingo card where suddenly, they're paying for IVF, where if they married someone younger, they would not be forced into that situation. But
Right.
love
Right.
is
Right.
love,
Right.
and they got the family that they wanted. It all worked itself out. Um,
Amazing.
and so I just think that these things, if you look around and even ask your happily married friends, what's the
Yeah.
thing that you thought you wanted that your partner doesn't fulfill, but you're happy anyway?
Right.
Again, the positive version, not the negative version. I think you'll see a lot of people didn't marry the person that they thought on paper,
I mean,
and
I
almost
don't know anyone
everybody,
that did. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
almost everybody who turns to me says, I had the perfect guy on paper and I was miserable.
Yeah. I hear that all the time too. My husband and I always joke, like, if you met in high school, how would that have gone? Right. So he was
Ah,
like the stoner guy who never cracked a book with long hair who dropped out after junior year. And I was like the Susie cream cheese in every club who got like straight A's and
yeah,
actually left after 3 years too because I graduated early. Right. So he's like, I would have never given you a second look. And I'm like,
right.
I would have been nice to you, but I don't think I would have like asked you to Sadie Hawkins or anything. So
Well, that we're really dating ourselves, but that is funny.
yeah.
Um, I want to read this paragraph to close this topic. Um, Cox, the author of Uncoupled, told me that when you survey people, the majority say they would like a long-term stable relationship. The sad part for me, he said, is that I don't think there's a fundamental shift in desire, only in outcome. The sentiment he hears is, ideally, this would not be my life, but finding a partner is too difficult.
Mm.
So, I know you've been traveling a lot. Do you have a client small win? Did anything good happen with the women that you're working with this week that you could share to give some people some hope?
Well, I have more than a small win. I have a story that I think is really important.
Sure.
So I have a client that's at like the 4 month mark with a guy, and he did something very healthy and mature and thoughtful, which is he checked in with her about what she wants for her future and where she sees like her life romantically and what she
Mhm.
sees with him.
Okay.
But what was really interesting about it is he kind of did it with no warning. And what he didn't do is that masculine thing women want, which is he didn't tell her how he felt. He didn't
Mm.
say, baby, you're the woman of my dreams. And I want to build a life with you. And I can't wait to see what we do together in the next 5 years, or I can't wait to get married or live together or anything. He put it all on her and made her super vulnerable.
Mm.
So she got really stuttery and sputtery and uncomfortable and kind of like fumbled the moment, right? It was one of those, as Christian Carter would say, make or break moments that didn't go well. So she reached out to me like, what should I have done? And I said, hey, you did nothing wrong. He was not masculine at all. He
Mhm.
took no risk, but he also was being thoughtful and mature and healthy and wanted to check in with you. But, I would have liked for him to have been a little more forthcoming himself, or
Right.
like you're so amazing and I'm loving being with you and like something. And so I gave her a little suggestion of how to do a little follow-up,
Mm.
because the truth is she is falling in love with him. He's doing everything right. He's showing great enthusiasm. He's been hurt, they're older. He's been divorced twice and really had the rug pulled out. And I think he's exactly where she is. And even if he's not, who cares? I said, do you want to have a great life or do you want to have a safe life? So I told her to just follow up and tell him she's falling in love with him. So I'll let you
Okay.
know what happens next time.
Okay. Very good. Two people in love. That's happy. My story is
Yeah.
a shorter story than that because I've got a client who's been with me for a few months, and she has very little dating and relationship history. I don't want to out her. She's in her 50s, but she's got a disability, and because of her disability,
Oh,
it's A, impacted her ability to date. Certainly B, it's impacted her belief in herself, her self-esteem, how she sees herself, how she sees herself as desirable. So it's it's like a double whammy for her. And so getting her through the first month of Love You and just getting her confidence, the belief that she's beautiful, she's lovable, this thing that she has is not going to deter the right kind of guy. Sure enough, some guy past month coming on super strong, and he's a great guy. He's doing everything right. Call, plan,
aw,
pay, 5 dates in a row. And her biggest insecurity is that she's going to somehow mess this up, right?
mm,
He's going to see how broken she is. He's going to see scars from surgery, something like. So she's just all in her head about how this is going to go south because it's going so well.
yeah, yeah. It's
He, al-
scary.
he already knows. He already knows all this, right? So how
Yeah.
about instead of leading with insecurity, which is not going to make you more attractive, how about you just assume the answer is yes, this guy likes you. All indicators are, green light. He wants to be your boyfriend already. How about you just let him? How about you just like
Yeah.
let it happen instead of fighting it and telling him all the reasons that you're not good enough for him, which is what's bouncing around in your head.
Mm,
So I'm really looking forward to our next conversation because she too might have a boyfriend. They won't be saying "I
mm,
love you," I hope, quite yet, but she might have a boyfriend sometime in the next few weeks,
yeah.
and that was an outcome that she couldn't have imagined when she signed up, a couple months ago.
Aw, I love that so much. You do such amazing work, Evan. So beautiful.
Mutual, of course. Um,
So much
uh,
fun.
my friend, where could people find you?
I am at loveisinthestars.com or soulmatestars.com.
Do you have anything hot that you're getting out this Christmas?
Well, every year I have a calendar sale. I have, it's back to that weird stuff, right? I have an astrology calendar sale that uses a person's whole chart and all the influences for a 13-month period as they are unique to that person. And so they get a calendar with symbols for every day that show like best days for love, best days for money, best days for travel, and then days to like take it easy, be careful, watch out for their health or money or safety or whatever, lay low. And they're really fun. I've had them since 2000, and they're people buy them year after year after year. A lot of our colleagues are always like, get me a new calendar, Carol. So it's really cute. So those come out in December and January. Yeah, I have a sale.
Awesome.
Yeah, how about you?
That's exciting. For me, I got a bunch of things that are in the works right now. I don't know if it's going to drop before this podcast is out, so I don't want to say too much, but I'm changing my Love You offer. I'm expanding membership, making it more accessible. I took some feedback from some listeners. How could I get into Love You? And really go through the course if I'm kind of on the fence and kicking the tires and want to see how it is. So we're going to make Love You into more of a membership site with exclusive material. In the meantime, whether that's up or not by now, for people who are curious about the things that we're doing, if you go to evanmarckatz.com/quiz, you can take my quiz to discover if you've been wasting time on the wrong men. Hint, you probably have. And if you really want to make an effective change in your life and you want to accelerate the process and find love and fix your broken man picker, go to evanmarckatz.com/now. You can book a discovery call and see if you are a good fit for coaching. You and me, half hour on the phone, we'll figure everything out. In the meantime, if you enjoyed today's podcast, go to Spotify, go to Apple, go to YouTube, leave us a comment, leave us a review, compliment Carol on her laugh. She really needs to hear that. It's an good infectious laugh.
They really don't have to. I'm good with it. It's fine.
I'm, and I, for one, am very grateful to have friends like Carol and listeners like you who make this possible. So thank you all for being here. I look forward to our next conversation. Bye.